If it feels like there's a lot of electric bikes nowadays, that's because there are. They were just starting to pick up here in the US a few years ago, but over the last couple, sales have skyrocketed. E-bike sales in the United States leaped by 269% between 2019 and 2022, with the market size expected to have grown further in 2023 to be worth $2.59 billion. Now, most of these are being used in cities around the country as an easy way to get around, with some people even opting for them as car replacements. But what if you want to get out of the city? What if you want an electric bike that can handle being off-road? Well, there's actually a ton of electric mountain bikes, or eMTB, as you'll see them written a lot. Just like every other type of e-bike though, choosing one can be overwhelming. So after a lot of research and testing, I think I finally have a good list of 3 of the best electric mountain bikes out right now for various different budgets. Now, if you're new to e-bikes, I've done a full video on all the details of all the local laws surrounding them, as well as other things that you should just know about electric bikes in general that I'll link below. But for this video, let's get to the bike. First up, the Veletri Summit 1, which is the bike I'd probably recommend as the best value for the money on this list, as it has a lot of the features that you'd find on more expensive bikes, but is one of the least expensive bikes in this category. Full disclosure, this is the only bike on the list that the manufacturer themselves actually sent me the bike for the video. Now, if you're not familiar, Veletri was actually founded by some of Lime's original hardware team, the super popular e-scooter and e-bike company, and it has since added people from Giant, Specialized, Trek, Cannondale, and more popular names in the electric last-mile vehicle industry. Veletri is one of the fastest-growing e-bike brands in the United States and has onboarded over 500-plus partnerships with independent bike dealers in the first half of 2023 and are now up to over 1,000. So there should be a dealer nearby that you can get help from when needed, which is important. Now, the Summit 1, I'd say, is a bit of a hybrid e-mountain bike, good for everyday use, but also trails or off-road. It has a 750-watt motor, putting out 90 newton meters of torque being extra important for mountain bikes as it's needed for hills. You can also change the speed limit of the bike from 12 miles per hour all the way up to 28 miles per hour, making it a Class 1, Class 2, or Class 3 bike for whatever you need to obey for your local laws. And of course, you can just crank it all the way up for off-road as needed too. It also has a 120mm hydraulic suspension that is adjustable on the fork itself, 2.6-inch thick Kendra tires, and a Novatec through-axle hub for the front and back. There's also a mountain bike grade derailleur, 8-speed Shimano gears, and Solic hydraulic disc brakes. Now, it has a hub motor, as in the electric motor is housed in the back wheel, compared to a mid-drive motor that others have in the frame of the bike at the pedals. Now, Veletri says that since this bike is really meant more for beginners looking to get into electric mountain bike riding, and also is meant to be more of a hybrid, and that helps it come in at a lower price, which makes sense since mid-drive motorbikes are always more expensive. It does, however, have a torque sensor instead of a cadence one, which means it can use the force you are pedaling to determine how much power to deliver at any given moment, which is more important when going up and down hills versus the cadence sensor that just uses the revolutions of the pedals instead for doing that. So I'm glad they didn't go for the cheaper cadence sensor here. The bike has a 705.6 watt-hour battery that is removable, so you can charge it away from the bike, which is convenient. It's also a UL 2271 certified battery, and the bike is UL 2849 certified, which means it has been third-party certified for safety, and is important as new laws are being presented to require those certifications for electric bikes going forward. You can watch my full decoder episode on what those certifications are at the link below. Now, Veletri also claims a 70-mile range with pedal assist only and 60 on throttle. And again, since this is a bit of a hybrid bike, it has a throttle that you can use instead of pedaling, which is nice for commuting, maybe riding home after your legs are jello from going down a trail. You can go through the power modes by using the up and down arrows on the left handlebar, from 0 with no assist all the way up to 5, as well as select those same things within 3 different modes. Eco to save power, Boost, which is better for street riding, and Trail, which is better for riding on trails. The bike also has front and rear lights. Rear is also a brake light as well, which is good for the roads as well as crowded trails potentially. You can also add accessories like a rear rack or fenders, for example, to again make it more for everyday riding if you wanted to. Also, an interesting note, it has a balanced geometry, meaning things like the handlebar width is different for the different frame sizes, the stem lengths are different as well. This is just a nice touch compared to a lot of other budget electric bikes that don't adjust these things for the different frames that they offer. We have Apple Find My also built in for tracking of the bike, but also health tracking for the ride as well. There's an app which you can use to customize the bike setting from your phone, but it's not necessary. You can actually use the bike without it, which is nice. You can also customize a lot of things on the bike's display as well. And the bike is IPX7, so riding around in the mud and rain is is fine. Also, while the bike is meant to be a beginner electric mountain bike, it is also upgradable. So as you progress, you can swap things out, like the seat post for a dropper seat, which we'll talk about more in a second, the forks, tires, the gears, etc. Idea again being that this is a good entry into e-mountain biking and a good, inexpensive, comparatively base to build off of. As with all these bikes, I will leave links below to the best price that I can find on each. Next up, we have the Bulls Copperhead Evo AM 750. I will start by saying that a lot of these bike companies have gone the way of car companies, and there are a ton of different trims and optional extras, and it can just get really confusing. So for this video, this is the base model of the Copperhead Evo AM series with the 750 watt-hour battery, the highest capacity battery that they sell. And it's the second most expensive bike on this list, and it's really more for someone getting a bit more serious about electric mountain biking. Bulls is a German company that also has a decent-sized dealer network, as all of the bikes on this list have, as again, it's usually pretty important for repairability. Speaking of that, also, it has the very popular Bosch 250 watt performance CX system with 85 Newton meters of torque. And that is paired with the Bosch PowerTube 750 watt-hour battery that is also removable, so you can charge it away from the bike as well. It has a 10-speed Shimano gear set and derailleur, as well as Tektro hydraulic brakes and 2.6-inch thick wheels. We also have through axles on the front and back, and the bike is a tiny bit lighter than the 62-pound Veletri at 58.5 pounds. But a couple of things that you get for the added cost that the Veletri doesn't have is dual 150 millimeters of travel suspension, which off-road especially makes a big difference for the types of trails that you might do. And it comes with a dropper seat post from Limotech that you can use to raise and lower the seat post with a lever on the handlebar, not just for easy adjustment, but to get a higher center of gravity for going uphill for better positioning, and a lower one for going downhill so you don't flip over the handlebars. You also get this monkey link setup, which is kind of unique, that uses clips and magnets to be able to swap out various things like the fenders and reflectors with other ones that use this system, and even get power from it if it's a light instead of a reflector, for example. It does have an app, however, that you can use to control various settings and customize things if you wanted to, and of course it can be ridden without the app at all too. You can control the level of pedal assist. This bike has pedal assist only, by the way, no throttle, by selecting up and down on the controller here on the left. The level is indicated by color, and no color being no assistance, all the way up to red being the most assistance, and then there's others in between. And the stacked LEDs on here indicate the battery charge level, and they go from blue to white as you lose 10%, and then off entirely when you lose the full 20%, which is nice compared to just having 20% intervals. On that controller, we have left and right, which don't do anything unless you have the optional screen, and we have a pretty standard mountain bike seat, and another semi-standard thing that I don't really like, but I get why it's there, I understand why it's that way, and usually it is that way on a lot of serious bikes, but that's the lack of a kickstand. It's just something to be aware of if you weren't already, but since it doesn't have that, it means you have to lean the bike up should you decide to stop with it at some point. Again, I'll leave links to the best prices that I can find on the bikes below. Which brings us to the highest end model I'd recommend on this list. This is the Delight bike from the German maker Rees and Mueller. Like Bulls, they have a bigger presence in Europe, but dealer partners here in the US for repair, service, and sales. Now, there are a lot of various trims for the Delight, but the one that I have here is the GT Touring. And even though it is the entry-level trim of the Delight series, it is still more expensive than the Bulls and definitely more than the Veletri. But this is the sort of bike that is meant to be the end-all be-all electric hybrid mountain bike and commuter. And we'll go through this one, but there are a lot of things you can customize about this bike when you order it to adjust the price up or down as well based on what it is you need and don't. To start though, we have the same Bosch system as the Bulls, as standard actually, the Performance Line CX 250 watt motor with up to 85 Newton meters of torque, the same Shimano gears, but this model has a 12-speed option versus the 10 on the Bulls, and it has a 625 watt-hour battery, so it's a bit smaller than the Bulls, but also removable. It has dual suspension for the front and back that is also adjustable via the suspension pump like the Bulls, but it has a little less travel to it. You can actually get the exact same suspension setup that is on the Bulls, though, as an optional extra. It doesn't come with the drop seat post, which is something I like about the Bulls, but again, also an optional extra. But we do get a headlight included with two beam settings like a car has, and it gets properly bright, and a rear light that also indicates braking. We also have large Magura disc brakes, and unlike the Bulls, it comes with a very simple display as standard, and this one I have here is actually the Nyan, and is the top model optional extra display that also has offline sat nav as well. Not sure why I would ever use that. I prefer to just use my phone. You can download maps that way too, but I digress. We also have up and down arrows that do the same changing between the various ride modes that we have on the Bulls system, because again, same Bosch system. And we have an app as well that isn't necessary, but also allows you to further customize things like the Bulls too. It does, though, have a kickstand, unlike the Bulls, as well as an included side mirror and ergonomic handles, which you can also swap out depending on your customization options. But it helps it to be used as not just a pure mountain bike, even though it is still a very capable mountain bike. Now, for the Delight though, there are a million different configurations to choose from, and also optional extras out the wazoo, like I mentioned. Now, bottom line, if you want the best of both worlds within the Rees and Mueller lineup, the GT Touring is probably the way to go. And if you wanted to do some more off-roading with it, you could easily swap for knobbier tires and or go for the higher travel suspension options, or you could go for the Delight Mounted that loses the fenders and some of the other things, but it includes the dropper seat, has those knobbier tires already, bigger pedals, beefier suspension as well. Again, I'll leave a link to the best price I could find on this bike and its configurations in the description below. There you go. Hope that was helpful. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Also, I will leave links to all of the bikes and the best prices that I can find in the description below if you want to check them out. Right now, though, I think I'm going to leave the cameras behind and try to go find a trail to play around in. Good night. Shut up. Yeah. Next. Sorry. It's okay. I know, I hear bagpipes somewhere. That's crazy. Shut up, dog. Stop barking in the park. It's rude. Helicopters in the park, where they belong. Shut up, dog. Can't escape them, can't escape them. It's a park. It's a park. There's helicopters.